Violence in Mexico has increased, as has the risk of going there.
As Mexico's drug war spills into the streets, the State Department is posting an official travel alert that bystanders have been injured or killed in violent attacks. In fact, during the first 8 weeks of this year, more than 1,000 people have been victims of the Mexican drug war.
I've always wanted to travel in Mexico, but the news reports coming out of the country are pretty grim. The violence and murder surrounding the drug wars is out of control, and the U.S. State Department just issued another warning about the danger of traveling south of the border. I'm a motorcyclist and a filmmaker from Seattle, Washington, and I'm riding alone into the heart of Mexico. As a motorcyclist, my challenge is to survive the rough roads ahead of me. As a filmmaker, I'm looking for a story about life in Mexico, something beyond the doom and gloom reports associated with the drug war. I know that there are other stories out there, we just don't hear them. I consider this trip a research expedition. I'm neither scientist nor anthropologist, but I do have a theory. I believe that people around the world are basically good at heart. If my theory holds true, the strangers I meet along the way will help me. If not, something else will happen. I don't know what the outcome of this journey will be. I crossed the border in Tecate and began documenting my ride into Mexico. My method is simple. Since I'm traveling alone on a motorcycle, I have to film everything myself. The adventure, the riding, and my interactions with people I meet along the way. I've never done anything quite like this on my own, and I'm a little nervous about the trip ahead of me. I'm avoiding the main highways when I can, in part because I want to challenge myself, but also because I want to experience life in the more remote parts of the country. I'm not interested in tourist destinations, but I am concerned about riding into the middle of a drug-growing operation here in the backcountry. Accidents and mechanical breakdowns are also a concern, and I plan on filming these as they occur. There, that's a significant chunk of barbed wire there. It was wrapped up inside the chain, and there's still some more down in the sprocket here. A little roadside surgery. After removing the barbed wire from my chain and sprocket, I continue down the road. I'm looking for a place to spend the night. I don't have an itinerary or any reservations. Me llamo Sterling.
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 All right.
¿Y tú?
Ignacio. Nick.
Nick. ¿Cuántos años vives aquí?
All my life.
All your life.
Yes, sir.
And what kind of work do you do?
Cowboy.
What's it like to be a cowboy?
Real hard.
This small ranch near Laguna Hansen is an ideal spot for a traveling motorcyclist like myself, and it looks like I'm not the only biker who's been here. The next morning I head inside the restaurant for breakfast. The family that runs this small rancho is kind and generous, and I leave with much appreciation for their assistance. So far my theory seems to be holding true. My next destination is off the main highway, at the end of a 30-mile dirt road. I didn't know there were mountains in Baja, but the high plateau in the northern part of the peninsula is over 10,000 feet in elevation. Mike's Sky Ranch is a well-known destination for dirt bikers and off-road racers. I'm looking forward to meeting some of them and having a few beers together in the evening. Oddly enough, there's no one here except for the caretaker. It's disappointing to travel all the way up to Mike's and be the only biker here, but that's the way it is. I wonder if this is normal, or if they've been scared away by the stories in the news. The next morning I head back down the long driveway to the main highway. When I find an opportunity to get off on a side road, I take it. This is a dirt biker's playground, but my overloaded machine is too heavy to maneuver really fast. An evaporated salt lake in the middle of Laguna del Diablo is a lot easier. It reminds me of the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, where the land speed records are set. San Felipe is a small town in the Gulf of California. Once a sleepy little fishing village, today it's become a popular haven for American retirees and part-time residents.
¿Vive muchos años aquí? 11 años.
Pero somos de Sinaloa, somos brothers.
¿Te gusta San Felipe?
Sí, mucho.
¿Por qué?
Good. Porque aquí viene el turismo, viene a pasear, si nosotros le tocamos al turismo. Un Guadalupe campa, será quien los ayudaba. Fue de México a Tijuana, a Guayana la pasaba, porque parecía gabacha y el inglés lo masticaba.
From here, a paved road heads south along the coast, past fishing camps and tiny outposts of civilization. The pavement ends a little ways past the small town of Puertocitos, and then the riding gets really spectacular. Every time I film a riding scene like this one, I have to get off the bike, set up the camera, ride through the scene, return to collect my gear, and head off again. It's a process that I'll repeat hundreds of times in the coming weeks. By now I have the routine down pretty well, although I'm always a little nervous to ride away and leave my camera on a tripod in the middle of the road. I found a perfect location to set up camp, a deserted cove right next to the ocean. There aren't any hotels or restaurants on this rugged coastline, but that's okay with me. I have everything I need to be comfortable out here all alone. This is what I had in mind when I set out to explore Baja, a deserted beach with a campfire right next to the ocean. The only bad part of the experience is that I wish I had one of my riding buddies here to share it with me. I know that they would really appreciate this place the same way that I do. One of the benefits of traveling alone is that it forces you to step outside of your comfort zone and meet new people. There's one person who lives out here that I've wanted to meet for a long time.
That's Kitty. This is Coqui. Coqui, hey, look at this camera. Mira, mira.
Although Coco is a Baja legend, I found him very approachable, and he agreed to an interview.
I've been in here 19 years in here, con this year. I told you, I opened this place December 27th, 1990.
After losing one of his legs in an accident, Coco had a hard time making it in the city, so he moved out here in the middle of nowhere. A medical condition took Coco's other leg about 6 months before I arrived, but that hasn't stopped him from living out here all alone.
Nobody believe it, I coming back in here. Everybody say, no, Coco's going to lose the leg. You know, come and we'll go back. Bullshit, I come in here, I like it.
At first, his only visitors were those who passed by on the Baja 1000 race. He became friends with many, and the rest is history. Today, Coco has quite a few visitors. They come for a drink, and often leave a souvenir behind. John Sweeney and Carrie Spidell rode down here from San Francisco.
I'm on a DR 350 and John is on a KLR 650, and we left on January 17th for about 2 months of on-road, dual sport, off-road and on-road riding.
What made you choose to come to ride in Baja?
The club members, the San Francisco Motorcycle Club, had been going down every year for years, and I'd been a member for a long time, and they just kept bringing back these wonderful stories about, you know, just what a unique and fabulous experience Baja is. And so finally I rode a 1988 BMW K75S the first year, and the next year I bought a DR 350 and started riding with those guys off dual sport rides. And then I bought the Kawasaki, which this is the third trip down to Baja in the KLR. And
it's remote, it's very rural, and you can jump off the road and you can get away from everything. But then you can come here in the middle of nowhere and get a beer or get a drink and you know, and meet people like Coco, which seem to be really what Baja is all about. The people are just so fantastic.
A little while later, I got roped into helping Coco and another friend go on a water run.
Makes you feel at home, huh?
Yeah, he's made me feel at home.
You know it?
Yep.
He does that for people all over the world. Here, now it's your turn. Want me to take a picture of you?
Okay.
So you're helping Coco with his water run now.
I'm helping Coco with his water run now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys coming here in my house. I got 1,000 people like coming here for see my face, drink a couple cocas, and go back home. That's my story in this place for now. And I don't know what happened more.
After leaving Coco's, I get back on the main highway heading south to Bahia de Los Angeles, a spectacular bay filled with islands. The road to San Francisquito is 75 miles, all dirt, and presents a wonderful display of desert life. I ride all day without passing a single vehicle. San Francisquito's white sand beach is beautiful, and there's several empty palapas for rent. I claim one as my own and sleep like a baby. In the morning, I'm ready for a good breakfast. There's only one place to eat, but that's okay. Rice and beans with some eggs and coffee is all the fuel I need to get started. Getting fuel for my motorcycle is a bigger challenge. There aren't any official gas stations in this part of the country. Here, a family of ranchers is making a little extra money by selling gasoline on one of the remote roads between cities.
Lo necesito.
High-speed cruising on the rough roads plays havoc with every nut and bolt on my motorcycle. Everything rattles loose, and I have to stop when one of my pannier bags becomes unattached. My sleeping bag is ruined. It fell behind the exhaust and melted. You just can't predict what will happen on a trip like this, and now I make sure to strap everything down even tighter than before.
This is really pretty incredible. It looks like I took a wrong turn and ended up in Alaska or the far north. But this is a salt evaporating pan, and what happens is the ocean water is pumped into these large flat areas where it evaporates and produces salt. And due to the unique characteristics of this landscape, the readily available supply of ocean water, high winds, high heat, it produces quite a bit of salt, and it's pretty cool to ride around here.
This lagoon is a special place for migrating gray whales. I'd like to take a whale watching tour, but I've lost a lot of time navigating my way through the maze of salt flats. Even though I'm riding with a GPS, none of the strange roads out here are on my map. A little further, the scenery is completely different. San Ignacio is a lush oasis filled with date palms. In the middle of the oasis, a hotel and restaurant called Rice and Beans.
Hello, I'm Ricardo Romo from San Ignacio. I'm born here 46 years ago, and we started with this place in 1965 by my father's, and now it's my turn to raise this place, and we try to do the best possible. Tourists, they love rice and beans, real Mexican food, so it's the reason we decided to put rice and beans. And people like to stay, like to come every year with us, especially people that race Baja 1000. They love our place and always come back every year, more and more people.
A mile off the main highway, the road leads to San Ignacio, a small pueblo with a large Jesuit mission from the 1700s. The town square is a perfect place to relax before heading south to the ocean. From here, I'm heading out to the town of San Juanico. The road is long and sandy, and it takes all afternoon to get there. San Juanico is a small Mexican fishing village on the Pacific coast of Baja. When I arrive, all of the shrimp boats are in Scorpion Bay, looking for protection from a recent storm. The cantina outside of town is a popular spot for surfers to hole up and wait for the next set of waves to arrive.
Cervezas, surfing, relaxing.
Surfing, cervezas, and relaxing.
It's a pretty good combination.
Yeah.
I'm getting used to traveling in Baja, and the filmmaking is going well. I find my location and set up my shots. Then I ride through the scene and return to collect my camera. The rough mountainous landscape seems far less forbidding than it once did. As I'm getting closer to the end of the peninsula, I've decided to push my luck and try something different. This time, I'm looking for a road that can barely be called a road. On my map, it's listed as a primary rural route, but in reality, it's the worst road in Baja, or so it seems. After extracting myself from a maze of trails through the brush, I managed to find something that resembles a road, but it's a tough one, with lots of rocks and steep hills. The only way to make progress is to keep moving. Slowing down only makes it worse. What looks like a hillside covered in rocks is actually the road. It's hard to get any traction once I'm stopped, and I feel like I'm trying to balance a 500-pound motorcycle on bowling balls. Picking it up is harder than I imagined it would be. A few miles later, I fall over again. By the third time, I'm ready to give up.
This is really getting exhausting. I think I'm going to call it a day because I'm really getting too tired to even continue on this road, and it's going to be dark soon. So the smart thing to do is going to be to try to find a place to camp here.
I make camp and fall asleep before eating dinner. When I wake up, the road remains like a bad dream, but it's still here, and I have to battle with it once more if I'm going to make it out of here. Fortunately, I'm a good deal refreshed, and much of my strength is returned, even if my technique isn't perfect. I make my way to the top of a summit and look out at the valley below, a fine reward for having survived such a difficult passage. The road down into the valley isn't that hard, and I soon arrive at Mission San Jose de Camundo like a weary pilgrim. There are more than 20 missions in Baja, built by the Jesuits, Franciscans, and Dominicans in the 1700s. I've heard that this is one of the most beautiful missions on the entire peninsula. After the last section, I feel like I've experienced enough of the bad roads, and I want to get prepared for the second part of my journey, so I take the main highway down to La Paz, the capital of southern Baja. La Paz is Spanish for the peace, and it's hard to find a more peaceful city than this mellow port near the end of the peninsula. Locating a good place to stay isn't difficult. In this case, a hostel in the center of town with secure parking for my motorcycle. With great beaches and good food, La Paz is a perfect place to relax and prepare for the next part of my journey.
One freshly cleaned pair of pants.
My carburetors also need cleaning, so I find a local BMW mechanic. He invites me to his home on his day off. He even helps me build a new pannier lid to replace one that I lost along the way. After a week in La Paz, I'm ready to go, so I leave the city behind and board the ferry over to the Mexican mainland. I arrive at the port of Los Mochis in the middle of the night. Even though I've made it this far without any major problems, all of my fears have returned at the thought of heading off into the Mexican mainland, all alone.
Dozens of U.S. citizens have been kidnapped across Mexico.
In December, this group of Mexican soldiers was found with their heads cut off, and a note from traffickers warning, "For every one of mine you kill, we will kill 10.
Sinaloa, one of Mexico's 31 states, and the home of the country's largest drug cartels. One of the major trafficking corridors, the Sierra Madre Mountains, which stretch almost 1,000 miles from the U.S. border all the way down to central Mexico. My plan is to ride into the heart of the mountains, to a region known as Las Barrancas del Cobre, the Copper Canyon. This is a rugged country made famous by movies like Treasure of the Sierra Madre with Humphrey Bogart. Villains and bandits like Pancho Villa called these mountains their home, along with tribes of outcast Indians, miners, loggers, and ranchers. In the modern world, the drug war, murder, and kidnappings catch all of the headlines. Life in the Sierra Madre has never been easy, and I'm heading right into the middle of it. I stop in El Fuerte to gather information. My source is Ivan Fernandez, one of the Three Amigos, an organization dedicated to providing travelers with information. I ask Ivan to tell me about life in the Sierra Madre.
Kenyan country is just very interesting. There's no law. You come to many villages and there's no police there because there can't be police. And the army just comes by every now and then, with big machine guns and all that. And when they come into one of those towns that you will probably visit, all men are out. Only females making tortillas, in town. And that's just the way it is, Sometimes you come to a little ranchito, in a very remote, lost destination in the canyons, and if you're hungry, well, you're very welcome to the real ranches, and they give you whatever little they have, beans and rice, and tortillas, and Grandpa comes, with sandals and an AK-47, and he just leaves it by the door like if it was an umbrella. And it's just fun, but yes, this is the way they live, and just as long as you don't question the umbrella or the AK-47, or look at it, they feel comfortable with you. Have your beans and your tortilla and just walk out quickly.
One of the other groups living in the Copper Canyon are the Tarahumara Indians.
The indigenous population of the area is very interesting. The Raramuri people, being 70,000, they've been here for thousands of years, and a lot of people come and see them. Ever since the arrival of the Spaniards, the Jesuit missionaries have been trying to convert them and talking about the Raramuri people. Later on, in the 19th century, anthropologists came and studied them, and in the early 20th century as well. So many books have been written about the Raramuri Indians. National Geographic on several occasions have written articles on the indigenous population of the area, and they are still very much the way they have been, forever. It's one of the most interesting Indian communities in the world. So I would, encourage you, to come and see them with respect. Understand that they have been there, living like that, for hundreds of years, and then they have their own perception of reality. They are all their own way of living, and that as poor and miserable as they look, they are living in peace, and they don't necessarily have to look like us, in order to seem to have a good life.
You know? I'm leaving El Fuerte and riding into the Copper Canyon. I'm hoping to be able to make a loop out of my ride and avoid any backtracking if possible.
There are a lot of dirt roads, going basically everywhere. A lot of people come here, and they get lost. Definitely for motorcycle enthusiasts, I would recommend it.
Rumors of lost gold mines and buried treasure brought the first adventurers into the Sierra Madre. Today, mining companies pull the wealth out of these mountains one truckload at a time. After 4 hours of riding, I pass through Tubares, and the road gets even steeper. By the end of the day, I've gained more than 7,000 feet of elevation and reached the Upper Sierra. Snowfall is not uncommon in the winter, and temperatures can drop below freezing during the night. Although I can see the small pueblo of Siracawi in the distance, I decide to stay at a rustic lodge near the edge of the canyon. After traveling more than 3,000 miles, I've finally arrived at the Copper Canyon. With a depth of 6,200 feet, this is the deepest gorge in North America, even bigger than the Grand Canyon in the United States. It's a breathtaking descent, a 6,000-foot drop in elevation, on a rugged road with hairpin switchbacks, steep cliffs, and outstanding views. I never make it out of second gear and carefully feather the brakes around every corner. This has to be one of the most spectacular sections of road that I've ever been on. Steep, sharp hairpin curves, no guardrails, dirt, and just a magnificent view of one of the canyons here in the Copper Canyon. In the late afternoon, I make it to the small city of Urique. It's hot in the bottom of the canyon, and I'm exhausted. On top of that, the battery in my motorcycle is completely dead. I find a small hostel on the edge of town, run by an American named Keith. It's a peaceful place, but I'm feeling too sick to really enjoy it. This is definitely not what I had in mind when I pictured myself arriving at my destination. With little else to do, I try to rest and reformulate my plan. I wake up feeling better and proud of the fact that I made it this far all alone, but I realize that I've only accomplished half of what I set out to do. I'm still looking for a story about life in Mexico, and I know that I'll have to find it here in the heart of the canyon. But where to begin? I start by walking out the door in search of anyone or anything that can help me. In the afternoon, my answer comes in a very unexpected way. An American that I've never met or heard about before arrives, and it changes everything. I learn that his name is Micah True, but in this part of the world, he's known as Caballo Blanco, the white horse. Although I didn't know it at the time, Micah is a legend in the sport of long-distance trail running. I asked him to tell me about life in Urique.
Urique is a small town, rural Mexico in the bottom of a canyon, 6,200 feet deep, and it's, you know, it's rough country and it's tough country, and there's lots of mestizo Mexican people, loggers, expatriate gringos such as myself. There's a few of us down here. Some people have a lot of money, a lot of people don't have a lot of money, but there's tropical fruit growing all over. There's love. The social system is people taking care of people, and it's a nice town.
Micah comes to Urique every year to organize a very unique event.
I wanted to do something to encourage their raramari, which is Tarahumara word for foot runners, and it's what they call themselves. And I wanted to encourage them to continue to run free and to continue their age-old traditions of running. So I decided I would make a foot race.
It's been called the greatest race the world has never seen, a 50-mile ultramarathon that takes place in Urique each spring.
The race name is the Copper Canyon Ultra Marathon. The people here have started calling it the Copper Canyon Ultra Marathon Caballo Blanco, but I just call it the Copper Canyon Ultra Marathon.
This seems like the perfect opportunity to learn more about the Tarahumara, and I still have enough time to explore the Copper Canyon further, so I decide to leave Urique and ride to another small canyon city, Batopilas. Each year, about 400,000 people visit the canyon. Most of them arrive on the Chihuahua-El Pacifico Railroad. The entire tourism industry in the Copper Canyon originated right here in Divisadero. There's a fancy hotel and a great view of Urique Canyon. Tarahumara women also come here to sell their handmade souvenirs to the tourists. After 20 minutes, the train leaves the station. This is the only chance that the passengers have to actually see Urique Canyon. It's my only chance to see the train. If Divisadero is the birthplace of tourism in the Copper Canyon, the city of Creel is the modern hub, with services, amenities, and hopefully a new battery for my motorcycle. Tourism in the Copper Canyon has declined in recent months, partly as a result of the global recession, but also because of stories about the drug-related violence taking place in Mexico.
I don't think that is a misconception. I don't think that's a myth. That's reality. That's occurring here. The drug gang violence and all that is a real thing. So it's certainly not happening much here in the rural Mexico and in the bottom of the canyons. It's happening more on highways, and it's cartel, contra cartel violence, and it's happening a lot in Juarez, and we're talking Mexico in general, particularly northern Mexico.
Despite the real or imagined dangers of traveling in Mexico, I meet a couple of Americans who just rode into town from Arizona. Kevin and John are on their way to Batopilas.
It's just terrible, all of the negative publicity that Mexico is receiving, but it's pretty much a function of the border areas. You get a few miles away from the border and you're in true Mexico. And really, there are no more friendly people and more helpful than the Mexican people. I mean, we're off to Batopilas, and then we hope to do Urique. Kevin decided he wanted to come down here, so we put the idea of the trip together. Ended up buying a used motorcycle, which was full of its own surprises.
And now he is working on the famous
shitty chain
famous Lube-Man chain lubricating device.
It's a tire lubricating.
Yeah, it
device.
lubricates everything except the chain.
We agree to look for each other in Batopilas, and then I get to work installing a new battery I purchased. It doesn't fit right, but I'm able to modify it and get it to work. The road to Batopilas wasn't built until the 1970s. The first half of the route is paved. The second half is a breathtaking 6,000-foot descent with winding switchbacks and hairpin corners and stunning views of the surrounding canyon. In the bottom of the canyon, the road follows the Batopilas River for several miles until reaching the outskirts of the city. At the turn of the century, Batopilas was an active mining community, known for some of the richest silver mines in the world. More than 1,500 miners lived here and worked a network of tunnels that was 70 miles in length. An early hydroelectric plant made Batopilas the second city in Mexico to get electricity, right behind Mexico City itself. Batopilas is spread out along a narrow road on one side of the river. Today, less than 2,000 people live here, and it's relatively untouched by tourism in the outside world. I find Kevin and John at a local restaurant, and we make a plan to head out the next morning. Getting gasoline isn't difficult, but getting good directions proves to be much harder.
Turn at the house where Maria used to live. Now that's not a real specific way to get any place. Turn before the cemetery. Well, I don't know where the cemetery is. So, other than that, no complaints.
On the way out of town, we passed the old mission at Sativo and a truck which has been driven off the road. Riding with Kevin and John is a lot more fun, but it's also more challenging and takes a lot longer.
Down she goes. You want to go try it again? Yeah, why don't we? I'd like to do that.
So we seem to be a little bit lost. We're looking for the road from Batopilas to Urique, and we've been told by more than one person that we need to go back to Sativo, which is a couple hours back, and take the high road. Who knows the truth? There seems to be a lot of traffic down here, and as John was saying, it doesn't look like church traffic. So it seems like they don't want us in this area, and we should be moving on.
By late afternoon, we realize that we aren't going to make it to Urique, so we turn around and head back to Batopilas with no injuries to anything other than our pride. In the morning, we meet a group of dirt bikers who just rode in from Urique on the route we were looking for. They describe the road as being very rough, a lot of steep ascents and descents with loose rocks, and 6 river crossings along the way. That's something I wasn't expecting. It's pretty much unknown territory that I'm heading off into today, with a general expectation that I'll make it to Urique before sundown. Riding by myself on the good road, I'm able to reach the Upper Sierra in a few hours.
But I'm passing signs for roads going in different directions, and I don't really know which one to take. So I'm just making my best guess and pressing on, heading downhill now. Eventually, I believe I'll be coming to the river soon. heading into the unknown brings with it a lot of fears and uncertainties. And I certainly felt that on the beginning of the trip, and I still feel that even today somewhat. But it's changed, and it's changing the longer I spend here in the Copper Canyon. So I'm going to take it easy and head up and then down to Urique. This morning, when I woke up, I was so nervous about the last day of riding down in the bottom of the canyons here, but I went through, I made it, and here I am. I've been here for a week, and I've managed to ride all the way around and through the Copper Canyon without having to backtrack. And now I'm here in the home stretch, heading down into Urique, down into the bottom of the canyon one last time to go to the race on Sunday. The day before the marathon, Tarahumara Indians from the surrounding villages begin arriving in Urique.
I invite the Raramuri from all over La Sierra Madre to come here and run with us, and it's their choice. If they want to come run with the gringos, if they want to come run on neutral turf, they come. And so far, 180 people have signed up, and 150 Raramuri have showed up from all over the mountains. So.
About a dozen international competitors also show up for the race.
This race is an intercultural exchange of trail running people, and it has it's mixing the ideologies of gringo runners with the format of Tarahumara runners, and it's mixing it up. It's got a little bit of everything. There's an 18-mile loop upriver, an 18-mile loop downriver, and finishing with an 11-mile out and back. We encourage people to come run whether they're good runners or not, even if they don't run anymore, just to remember that it's a cool thing to do. And we're encouraging the Raramuri to, come out and run. And if you finish the race, you win. If you participate, you win. If you wake up in the morning and you feel good, you win. If you live the good life and eat the good food and have love for other people, you win. So the idea is to realize that we're all winners.
Although the race has drawn the attention of international competitors, it's primarily a race of and for the Tarahumara Indians, and they're known to be some of the best long-distance runners in the world.
They've always lived in the boondocks, and they've always lived in very remote places, and to get around and to chase down their goat herds, and it's just a natural thing to do. We all used to be very good runners, all of us, all cultures, and just that most of us have forgotten how. The Raramuri still live closer to their traditional, they live closer to the earth, and they live closer to their genetic memory, if you will, and they run.
Some run faster than others, some have to walk, and others need help along the way. But they all try to keep going and make it to the finish line, even when the daytime temperature in the canyon approaches 100 degrees.
We allow 12 hours to finish and win 500 pounds of corn. Anybody who finishes the race wins 500 pounds of corn.
In addition to corn, there's significant prize money involved, funded by donations to the race event.
The primary sponsor of the race is a concept. It's not a corporation, it's a concept. The word is korima. It's a Tarahumara word meaning sharing. We have no corporate sponsors. It's all about sharing. The people are the sponsors. This race is for and by the people, with the people. So it's very unique.
After 6 hours, the first racers start to cross the finish line. In first place, a runner from the United States named Will Harlan. In second place, Hiroki Ishikawa from Japan. The fastest Tarahumara to cross the finish line is Arnolfo Kimare, who took third place wearing his homemade Huarache sandals. A couple of days before the race, Arnulfo walked 40 miles to get to Urique. Tomorrow, he'll walk another 40 miles to return to his village.
So it was a great honor to run this race, just to share the trail with them, the world's best runners. And even though I finished first, I was wearing fancy shoes and fancy running gear, and these guys finished just a few minutes behind me wearing handmade sandals made of tire tread tied to their feet. So it's not a fair fight. It's two different races, and they're the real champions.
Runners continue to cross the finish line for the rest of the afternoon and well into the evening. In total, 104 runners finished the ultramarathon to win the minimum 500 pounds of corn that's awarded to all finishers.
The Raramuri have it better off than many traditional indigenous cultures left because of being who they are and because of a certain proud humility that they carry, seemingly a contradiction, but not a contradiction at all. They're proud and they're humble at the same time, and they exude this proud humility, and I think people pick up that energy, and I think a lot of people respect them for that.
The true champion of this race wears huaraches and runs ultramarathons almost every day. And so all of my winnings, all of my corn, and all of my money go to the real, true champion of this race, Arnulfo Kimare.
In the true spirit of Koroma, the 10 international competitors gave all of their corn and prize money back to the Raramuri.
You know, we like to promote and get out the idea that while they're at war, we come together to make peace here in the bottom of the canyon. So it's all we can do is do what we can. And this race event is an example of that. So.
I began this journey as an experiment to see if I was capable of riding alone in a place like Mexico. The news reports didn't stop me from coming here because I had a belief that people around the world are basically good at heart. I now feel even stronger that this idea is true. As I leave the Copper Canyon, I feel like I've found the real treasure of the Sierra Madre, a way of life that I learned about in a part of Mexico I didn't even know existed, even if it's just a few hundred miles south of the border. That's the real story I was looking for, and I absolutely can't wait to share it.
Kita sinatihipo